I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Sam.
And this is Progression in Progress. All right, welcome back to another episode of Progression in Progress. Here we are once again. How you doing, Sam?
Doing great. How about you?
I'm good. I'm all moved in to school. Haven't caught COVID yet, so I think that's 2 W's.
Definitely.
Yes, sir. Okay. So this episode, or this intro right here, I guess, is kind of the start. We kind of want to frame not only this episode, but the coming episodes. We decided, okay, so last week we did an episode kind of all about, it wasn't really us giving advice, even though, I feel like we've said 1,000 times that we don't want to give advice. We just want to have a discussion and hopefully people get something out of it. But, last time we talked about what we want to do for the rest of our lives, the idea of that, and how do you find something like that? How do you find what you want to do for the rest of your life? Just that kind of general theme, that general topic. So as a follow-up for the next few weeks, we wanted to interview people who have found out what they want to do, who have found that passion, who have found that career, who have found that major. And we wanted to kind of pick their brain and get their perspective and see if Sam and I can learn anything from it, because we have some ideas of what we want to do, but we're not entirely confident.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So hopefully through these interviews, they can kind of give some insights on how we can kind of pick out what we want to do. And hopefully through the discussion there, maybe that can help some people out there as well.
Exactly. Yep. Because if it helps us, hopefully it will help some other people. So I'm excited for the next few weeks. I think so we had our initial episode, the last episode, and then we have this episode, and then we have 2 more interviews after that. So I guess 4 episodes in total, kind of on this general theme, on this general topic. And the first of these interviews is with my cousin, actually. His name is Ethan Watson. He's a great guy. I'm excited to bring him in here to get his perspective. I'm really excited to ask him a few questions and kind of pick his brain and see what he thinks, because he made, the path he chose, he made it work for him. So I really think there's a lot to learn from him.
Yep. Let's bring him on.
Let's do it. All right. We're here with my man, Ethan. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you guys?
We're good. We're, like we were just saying, we just did the intro and we're still live. No COVID just yet.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Good. Well, I guess first we kind of want to, I think everyone would want to hear just a little bit about you. So if you want to give us like a little quick introduction on who you are and your life up to this point.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Ethan. I'm actually Jonathan's cousin. I don't know if he mentioned that. But so we've been close our whole lives. I recently just graduated from Utah State University with a degree in computer science and started a full-time job as a software engineer working primarily with web development. Other than that, I like playing games, and I used to play tennis a little bit. Yeah.
There you go. Dude.
It's pretty much.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I guess first, you already mentioned it, so I guess we'll just go right into it. So tell us how you became interested in computer science. Because when, kind of just like we were just saying, Sam and I, when we thought, when we were thinking about this idea for this episode and we came up with the theme for these next few episodes, you came to mind first because you've stuck with computer science. You became interested in computer science and you kind of stuck with it for a while. So my question, I guess, would be how'd you first become interested in computer science?
Yeah. So the story with that, so when we were about like 13, 14, 15-ish, me and Jonathan used to be super into Minecraft, the video game.
Yes, sir, baby.
And we, of course, being, teenagers during, that era of YouTube, we decided to start a Minecraft YouTube channel. Had a lot of fun with that. And we primarily focused on modded Minecraft. So people would make modifications for the game that would add content or change things or something like that. And I always wanted to learn how to make my own mod. But like every tutorial I came across to do it was like, yeah, you have to learn how to write Java, the programming language, first. So you have to learn how to code to do this. So I'm like, okay. And then I tried, a couple times to self-teach myself. how to code in Java to limited success. And then eventually, towards the end of high school, I decided to take a computer science class, and that was the point where it really clicked for me. I started enjoying that right away. I kind of just understood it pretty easily straight from the get-go. And then I think that was my senior year that I took that class. So that was like kind of what made me decide, as I was applying for colleges, I was taking that class. So I'm like, maybe I'll give computer science a shot as my major for college. So then the next year I went off to college, took the intro CS classes there, and just kind of fell in love with it. And I've stuck with it ever since. I've done a couple internships in the field the last few summers of college. And then I was luckily, even with COVID, I was able to land a job working in the industry now after I graduated this spring.
Dude, that's sweet. I think it's super cool that, well, first off, I liked how you said this era, that era, back when everyone was like super into Minecraft and all that, but nothing's really changed. I was telling you the other day that my brother's doing the exact same thing. Kind of almost the same age. So I think it's cool how that's kind of stuck for a while, but just, I guess, that's not really what we're talking about, but what I wanted to say is I think it's super cool that you kind of took like a hobby, or not even a hobby, just something that you did for fun, right? We had a great time doing that together, but then you took it one step further and you found, you kind of let it guide your interests, and, it ended up, even though we were just playing games together, when we were 14 or 15, it ended up leading to your career. And I think that's super cool that you kind of just took it from one place and then you kind of built on it and progressed with it. And now you kind of have made something really great out of it.
Thanks.
Yeah. So was there like a certain moment or like a certain you were finally able to code like a certain project or something that really like kind of made that click for you? Like, was there a certain moment?
Maybe like a moment that you knew this is what you want to do. Like this is like that moment it clicked and you're like, dang, this is something I really, really want to do.
Sure. So from that first class I took my senior year of high school, that was when I started to get an idea that this was something I would be interested in, but it didn't fully click with me that was like the path I needed to go down until probably the end of my first year of college. I took a pretty difficult class about like software architecture and like how to structure everything right so that it's maintainable and that everything works well and is tested. And like I don't know, I loved that class a lot, and like that was the point where I realized that this was something that was gonna be my career from that point on. And then also a couple summers after that, when I started an internship actually at the current company I'm working for right now, the point, like when I got there at first, it was really difficult to kind of write software that is, at a scale like that's actually used, by a company for their business. So like once I started finally getting the hang of that, working at a large code base like that was when I was 100% sold on it. And I've been continuing down that path ever since.
Yeah. So I guess as a follow-up to that, Ethan, you one thing that I really have admired about your kind of progression, taking this from a hobby and then taking this to your career, you went from a hobby to something you're interested, taking a few classes, now your major, and then a career. One thing that's interesting is I feel like there's a lot of conversation right now. So I guess to just give a little context, there's a lot of conversation about college. Some people, there's a lot of growing voices that college isn't for everyone. People like Andrew Yang talk about college isn't for everyone, and then on the opposite side, you got people like Gary Vee who, think college are stupid, or like Dave Ramsey who think college is overpriced. So there's a lot of, maybe this is just the things I'm hearing, but I feel like there's a lot of rising voices saying that college is kind of dumb, overpriced, not worth it. But I understand some of that sentiment, but I'm not 100% sure I believe that. And I kind of want to get your perspective because I think you really made college work for you. You were able to find a career path or a major that you liked, and you were able to take it every step of the way, internships and all, and then land a bomb job after college. So maybe if you want to give us some of your insight and like your college experience and like how did you make it work so well for you?
Yeah, well, okay. So first of all, I actually kind of do agree with that sentiment a little bit, that college isn't necessarily for everyone. It was the right path for me, I think, and it worked out really well. But I've also met a lot of people who have done very well without going to college, especially in my industry. Like a lot of people will just do like coding boot camps, like 6-month coding boot camps that seem to be pretty effective at that. So that's an awesome path for some people. I think, again, college was the right path for me. A lot of how I made that work was just like, even though getting a computer science degree is a lot of work, like it was a lot of work sometimes, but even though it was a lot of work, the biggest part for me was that I enjoyed doing that work. It wasn't something that I was dreading or wanting to procrastinate super bad at. So yeah, that's pretty much like how I got through it. But again, I've met a lot of people who, find their own path that isn't necessarily college.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's cool. That I mean, I definitely agree that I don't think college is 100% for everyone, but I think it's cool that, like you just said, that you found a way to make it work and you dominated, and you really did make it work. I mean, you're a pretty humble guy, but the job you landed is super bomb. So I'm happy for you, and I think I'm super impressed by the way you made college work for you.
Thanks, man.
I guess I kind of had another question. Maybe we're kind of going a little bit backwards, possibly. But I remember, you were kind of doing in high school. You did your computer science classes, and you kind of liked it. But going into college, for at least maybe I'm not understanding right, but it kind of seemed like you didn't even quite have, like, you had an idea that you kind of wanted to do computer science, like going into college, and signed up for those initial classes. But was that kind of a like a leap of faith in a way? Like you kind of had an idea about it, but were there other things that you were kind of considering, but then you just decided to, full send on going through the computer science route? Because at least for me, like a big hurdle that I've had is like trying to, like, the concept of, okay, when you go into college, like you have to choose at the very beginning what you want to do, and you kind of have to stick with it the full time, and it's really hard to change after that. So was that kind of like a which, I mean, obviously isn't really true. You can always change most of the time, but it's a lot easier if you just stick it with it from the beginning. So was there like any kind of a doubt or anything like that, or just going into that all the way?
Yeah, how'd you like narrow down your options, and then, like Sam said, take that leap of faith?
So for me, I don't remember there. I mean, it's been 5 years now since I was trying to pick a major, but I don't really remember there being any other options that I was considering. It was just kind of okay, I like computer science right now. If that works, it works. If it doesn't, I'll figure it out then. And I luckily I didn't need to figure it out later, because it worked. I loved it. But I mean, like, I will say that not pretty much everyone, but a lot of people that I knew in the computer science program, they had, a lot of them didn't start out there. A lot of them started out somewhere else and took a little bit of time to figure out where they needed to go and what was the right path for them. And I think that's the case for a lot of people, because at 18 years old, 17 years old, applying for colleges, you don't necessarily know exactly what you want to do with the rest of your life, and that's okay. You have time to figure that out.
I like that.
Yeah, it's really good.
Dang. Well, I guess those are all the major questions we had for you. We have a few wrap-up questions that we'd love to ask you. So the name of this podcast is Progression and Progress, and we've kind of talking a lot about your history. How you got to the point. How you got to this point, how you took a hobby, took an interest, and then turned it into a few high school classes, then a college major, and then a degree, and then a job. So, but what does the future look like for you?
So right now, so I've been at this job I have right now for the last 3 months, since the beginning of June. And I think my main focus right now is trying to learn more, because there's a lot, like, doing a computer science degree, you learn a lot about programming and like a lot of those concepts, but learning to apply them is a totally different thing. And that from my experience and from what I've heard from others usually happens, once you're doing real work. So right now it's a lot of a learning experience. So I'm just trying to improve my skills as a software engineer right now and get to a point where I, feel really confident with my abilities. I don't have a lot of long-term plans with that right now. But we'll see what the future holds.
And like, as you're continuing to learn, how does it affect like your passion for computer science and programming? Like, are you still like liking it, or is now that you're have a career in it, are you kind of like starting to like it a bit less, or how do you kind of see that playing out?
Well, I definitely don't like it less. I will say that when I first started this job, it was a little bit of an awakening to how complex a lot of software projects can get. But over the last 3 months, I've been digging in and learning a lot about it. And now that I'm about at a place where I feel comfortable working in the code base we have, like I just love doing the work. It's a lot of fun. I will say now that it's my job, I don't do as much of it, outside of work hours, like personal projects. Mm-hmm. But I still love it just as much as ever.
Dang, I'm still waiting for that Quizlet knockoff to go big. I'm still waiting.
Oh yeah.
Your final project for college. That's pretty sweet. Dude, awesome. Well, I guess that's all we got. Is there anything you want to leave us with? Any last words? Not that you're dying, but any last words or any shout outs or anything? The time's yours to finish up.
Yeah. So, I mean, right now for anyone who's, heading into college soon or thinking about changing their major or something like that, like just know that it's okay to not know exactly what you want and that you'll figure it out as time goes on. And the best advice I can give, although I'm not really, qualified to say this since I didn't have to do it, but is to just try a lot of different things until you see what sticks. Don't just if something's not working out, don't just keep going down that path and hit a dead end.
Well, that's perfect. That actually is the advice I needed to hear. So I appreciate that.
Great advice. Well,
awesome.
Cool.
Well, thank you so much, Ethan. We appreciate it.
Have me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. We'll see you around.
All right. Take care.
Bye. All right. So just finished up talking with Ethan there, and I thought it was a great conversation. Learned a lot from him. But I think kind of the big thing that I got, or probably my favorite thing that he said, was kind of his closing statement. Really, really resonated with me. He said to basically keep trying things that you're interested in, and if something isn't working, don't be so hard on yourself and keep trying something even though it's not working for you, and to keep trying different things until you finally find the thing that really sticks with you or really resonates with you, and then you can keep pursuing that, become skilled at it. I thought that was really good advice, at least for me, just because I kind of like I said during the episode, I kind of felt like, or sometimes I feel like, okay, I need to pick something, and because it seems like it makes sense for me, I just need to keep trying it and keep doing it, just kind of grind it out until I can maybe turn it into something that I like, or it's just something I'm good at just because. But I don't know, what do you have any kind of thoughts with that?
No, I think, well, I was going to agree. I think that him just kind of talking about that it's going to take some time. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not an overnight process. That was one of the big things I took out of it, especially for me, because I'm in the midst of that kind of process. Ethan's a few years, Ethan's like 2 years older than me, but he's a few years ahead of me in school because I didn't go to school for 1 year, so hearing his advice is pretty sweet, because I'm think I know what I want to do. I'm pretty sure I want to major in finance, but there's a little bit of doubt. And that advice was great for me to hear him just kind of say think long term, it's not going to happen overnight, and just kind of keep with it. And then eventually it will click. Or like he said, don't be afraid to don't do what's not working. I think that was a unique piece of advice because it kind of takes some balls, it takes some cojones to take some guts to kind of stop doing something, to make that 180. Because Sam, you kind of mentioned that it's difficult to change paths in school, and it's not impossible, but it is difficult to change paths in schools. So that advice to, if it's not working, change paths, from Ethan, I think is super, super crucial, because the more and more you progress in life, the harder it becomes to switch. It may seem super impossible to switch while you're third year in college or second year in college, but I've heard this from someone that, is an entrepreneur talking about this. And they said that, right now is the best time to take risks. Like what kind of responsibility, you're going to have right now. It may seem like you have a lot of responsibility, but the amount of responsibility you're going to have compared to later in your life is not the same. It's significantly less at this point in our lives. When you're 30 years old and have 2 kids and you're married and you have a mortgage, and, you can't really, in the same way that you can while you're in college, you can't really just say, okay, I'm going to change my career. I'm going to do XYZ. I'm going to switch it up, because there's so much riding on that decision. And so many other people, everyone will end up taking a different path, whether they have a family or not, and where they end up living and stuff. But you're most likely going to have a lot more responsibility later in life than you are at this point. So I think that piece of advice is super sound and makes a ton of sense, but it was really good just hearing him say it.
Yeah, definitely. I guess while we're younger and we don't have all those responsibilities and everything, just do everything that you can to figure out what you want to do. So later on, you don't have to, kind of live with any kind of regrets or anything that you either didn't try something or, didn't find a perfect thing that was suited for you. Not saying that you can't change it later on, because it's very possible to do that, but just easier at this time, I guess.
Yep.
So
yeah. I think you summed it up perfectly. It's not impossible to change later, but like I was saying, it's a good time to take risks right now. And then I guess just one other thing that I really, it kind of towards the end of the interview too, another thing that I really liked that he said, when we asked about his job and how things are going and how wants to approach the future, he talked about how he's still learning at his job.
Mm-hmm.
He's still progressing. I think that was a perfect progression and progress mindset answer or example or story, because it's obvious that once you get the job, you keep learning and learning and learning, and, you are constantly progressing. I think that's obvious, but I think it's kind of hard to see that from maybe someone like in my situation right now, where you think, okay, once I get that degree, boom, it's time to start, it's time to hit the ground running. But in reality, it's a constant battle to continue learning. And I'm sure if we were asked either people at the end of the career or the smartest people, I bet you they would say they're constantly learning.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I almost see it as when you finish college, going into that first job, that's probably almost more of the beginning of your education than, the end of it, it seems like, just because, kind of like Ethan was saying, like a lot of things you learn are just kind of fundamentals and kind of building blocks. But then once you go into the job, that's where you're really, getting in the trenches, learning how the things you've been learning apply to the real world, and, how that best works for you. So, always got to keep progressing, always learning new things. And that's how it works.
Well, that's really progression and progress. Put simply, always learning, always progressing, always continuing. So I think, Ethan, I know Ethan's listened to 1 or 2 of the episodes, but he hasn't, I don't know if he's listened to all of them, but I think he really captured the whole progression progress mindset and the progression in progress vibes without even knowing it. So I think that was pretty cool. I think it's cool how it kind of all ties together and fits into this, even though it's not, there's nuance to it and it's not simple, but it kind of fits all together in a way that you can see it.
Exactly. Yeah. We're all still progressing. Even if we don't think we are, we probably still are.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, that was a pretty sweet episode. I'm glad we had a chance to sit down with my cousin Ethan and kind of ask him about his how he took, like I said this before, how he took his hobby and then turned it into a baller job out of college. And then he kind of put us in check or kind of checked us, a little bit, and reminded us of the progression and progress mindset, and that really he's always going to be still learning, and that he's just beginning his career. It's not the, it's a big milestone to finish college, but just like you just said, Sam, it's kind of the beginning of the end almost. Well, not the end, but the beginning of the beginning.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I just don't want to sound like doom and gloom. It's the beginning of the end once you get out
it's not. Well, it is, but it isn't. It's. I like beginning of the beginning better.
Beginning of the beginning. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Everything else was just the intro, the prelogue. What is it? Prelogue? Wait, prologue? Prelogue? Prologue? No, prologue's at the end.
No. Oh, you're right. Prelude.
Prequels.
Yeah. Prequel.
Just kidding. I don't know. I'm just kidding.
All
right. Okay. We got nothing more to add. I think we're done here. Yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Sam, you want to tell them where they can follow us?
Follow us on Twitter at Talk Progression. Follow us on Instagram at Talk Progression. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting app so you're always made aware when we post new episodes. Mm-hmm. Don't forget to leave us a review, 5 stars, of course, because this is your favorite podcast you've ever listened to. That really helps us out. And
share it with your friends.
Yes, share it.
Yeah, share it with your friends.
Could use these discussions in their life.
Exactly.
Too.
Alrighty. Thanks for listening. We appreciate it. We love you. We hope you have a wonderful week, and we'll see you guys soon.
Bye.